Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jubilee Circle. Thank you so much for joining us this morning here as we continue our Via Positiva theme of the Great Wide Open. We are exploring ways that we can break our habit of closing our heart to the world and learn how to remain open no matter what the world is looking like around us. While making breakfast the other day, I dropped an egg on the floor. I mean, nothing special, right? No big deal. Laugh, clean it up, go on, right? Well, no, apparently not to the critic that lives inside of my head. She pounced on my mistake. She called me everything but a child of God. There was a stream of insults from the voice inside of me that just flowed forth. I apparently say stuff to myself that I would never say out loud to any other human being. But when we talk about opening our heart, last week we learned one of the key things that we have to be is willing to do that. But there I was, standing in my kitchen, closing my heart off to the person that we do it the most often to, which is, of course, ourselves. I've been practicing this open heart living thing, and I can report that I'm getting better at it. I open up all the time on Facebook, especially when they're cat videos, and other funny posts from friends, but I'm also working on it. I'm getting a little bit better at opening my heart to those with whom I virulently disagree. But myself, apparently, I am still closed up tight. The bad news here is that unless I can get in the habit of being open to myself, all of this work that I'm doing to open up to others out here is going to be in vain. If there is only one of us here, as the metaphysical teachers tell us, then if I can open my heart to myself, then I will automatically be open to others, since we are all the same. However, if just dropping an egg in the morning prompts a tirade against myself, then I got a long way to go before I reach enlightenment. But the good news is, none of us, not a one of us, is a hopeless case. We can all break the habit of a closed heart, and we don't have to wait long for lessons to appear for us to practice with. For some of us, it's just an egg drop away. So today, we're going to explore how we can open our heart to ourselves and discover that underneath that critical voice lies our true divine self that knows its magnificence, that lives in a constantly open-hearted state. And when we get just a glimpse of that true divine self, all we're going to know to say is, oh yeah. At each Jubilee Circle, we open up by opening up. We open up to the four directions. We open up to ourselves, we open up to being in this space, in this moment, being fully present. And we burn sage as a reminder that this is a sacred time and a sacred place. And so I invite you to stand up wherever you are. Get your compass out if you need to. Find out where east is, because we're going to call the four directions and orient ourselves in this sacred time and sacred place.
Let us turn and face the east. As we open our heart to this new day, Holy One, reveal to us new ways to embrace this world. The sun rises on all of us, those we consider good, those we consider evil, and those for whom we feel indifference. Give us the willingness we need to remain open to them all so we can be an open channel for your love, just as the sun rays beam down on us all. Quarter turn to the right and we face the south. During the heat of this season, Holy One, we may find it easier to close our hearts, to flee to cooler places both within ourselves and without. When our inner world heats up with feverish desires to escape and find a more comfortable place, give us the willingness and strength we need to stay with even our hottest emotions and feelings. Help us stay open even as the flames of the south threaten to consume us. Quarter turn to the right and we face the west. As the sun sets and the stars rise this day and every day, Holy One, help us to let go of any mistakes we have made today. May we be forgiving toward ourselves, knowing that self-forgiveness is needed if we are to learn how to forgive anyone else in this world. Help us to see our mistakes and shortcomings as things that make us unified with others and not separate, knowing we are all doing our best to learn your ways of love. Quarter turn to the right, and we face the north. It's easy to turn a cold shoulder to ourselves, Holy One, when we perceive ourselves as flawed or unworthy. In those frozen times, remind us, Holy One, of who we truly are, your beloved children, created in an original blessing and called good. Melt our frozen hearts toward ourselves so we can become the welcoming beings you call us to be. turn back toward the center. I invite you to find a mirror at some point today, peer deeply into your own eyes and say, I love you. For many of us, this is a difficult thing to do, but if we are to live in the great wide open with a heart that welcomes the world, the first person we need to welcome unconditionally is ourselves. When we can do that, then, all we'll put out into the world is the kind of love that makes everyone say, oh yeah.
All right. So you can either remain standing or reclining or however you are situated this morning. We're going to... Or what? Yoga posturing, right. If you're in downward dog, that's fine. Child's pose would be a good thing. Just don't try corpse pose. That's all we ask. At this point, you'll fall asleep, I promise. All right. So our first song today, our opening song, is a song from Natalie Merchant. And I have a friend of mine who hates this song. And he says he hates it because it's so arrogant, that she's singing about what a wonderful, amazing person, human being she is. And I always thought it was more about humanity itself. It's really about how each of us is a wonder. It may be written in the first person, but if there's really only one of us here, it's really about all of us. So this song is by Natalie Merchant called Wonder. 2, 3, 4. Doctors have come from distant cities just to see me. Stand over my bed, disbelieving what they're seeing. They say I must be one of the wonders, God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer no explanation. Newspapers ask intimate questions, want confessions. They reach into my head to steal the glory of my story. They say I must be one of the wonders, God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer no explanation. Destiny laughed as she came to my cradle. No, this child will be able. Laughed as my body she lifted. No, this child will be gifted. With love, with patience, and with faith, she'll make her way. Challenge to your balance. I'm over your heads, how I confound you and astound you to know I must be one of the wonders, God's own creation. And as far as they see, they can offer me no explanation. Laughed as she came to my yeah. All right. You may be seated, come out of downward dog, child's pose, whatever you're doing out there. And good morning and welcome again to Jubilee Circle. We are a community offering inspiration, affirmation, healing, and service to live abundantly, love wastefully, and awaken to our true divine self. We are a progressive and inclusive community, and we are affiliated with the Jubilee community up in Asheville, North Carolina. We're influenced by Hebrew and Christian scriptures, but we give that a little metaphysical twist by reading it through the lens of A Course in Miracles. And we ground ourselves also in something called creation spirituality, which basically means that we are beginning not in that place of original sin, but in that bright place of delight, that original blessing where God created this infinite universe, this blue boat we ride around upon, all the creatures upon it, and finally, in that controversial and still much debated move, God created we weird and wonderful and wacky and amazing and creative and beautiful and auspicious and frustrating and maddening and rude and sometimes inconsiderate and overly recalcitrant human beings. But God looked at all of that creation, everything that God had created, and went, oh, well, that might not have been the best day, but God looked at all of that creation and instead said, all that is very, very good. And God continues to delight in all of creation and invites us to do so as well. Oh, yeah. A few announcements coming up next Sunday here at 11, July 5th. We will continue our Via Positiva theme of the Great Wide Open. We will continue broadcasting online only since we've had a spike in coronavirus cases. Oddly enough, we are going to continue to meet online next week, and we will certainly reassess the situation and make an announcement about July and the coming months. So stay tuned for that over at jubileecircle.com or on our Facebook page. So next Sunday, we will continue our Via Positiva theme of the Great Wide Open as we're learning to keep our hearts open. And we'll use music from K.T. Tunstall and learn how to open our heart to rejection. We'll continue doing some Wednesday night sermon previews, possibly discussions on Zoom. So watch the Facebook page for details on that. And we do intend at some point, once I figure out, my time, whatever, to send an email out so we can keep in contact with everybody. It's hard with all of this physical distancing and not being able to gather together to stay together. So we are going to try to compile some contact list. And so if you want to send us your information, you can write to us at info@jubileecircle.com with your name and email address, phone number, shoe size, blood type, whatever you would like to include as in the way of contact information. And so we will stay in contact with you during this time of physical distancing. And we do have a talk back right after celebration on Zoom, and you will find that link on jubileecircle.com or at the Facebook page. And also at either of those locations, you can download a bulletin for today. You can follow along and see how we are progressing. All right. Are there any other announcements, any other shout-outs? Oh. Oh, all of this like balloon stuff. I had a birthday on Thursday. So Janice created Janice does, what's the name? Balloonopolis? Is that your? Balloonopolis. That is what she does for a living. She doesn't play banjo for a living. She wishes she did. But very few people play banjo for a living.
That is true.
And she brought this beautiful balloon array and this balloon beer mug, beer stein, that I have been really enjoying. Makes me thirsty already, so. So maybe later. Oh, and the beer stein's on the floor. Okay. See, I'm already spilling my beer. Look at that. It's only 11:15, and I've already spilled my beer. And we are working hard. Lee and Beth and I were here yesterday. Thank you, Lee McEachern, Whoa, however we want to refer to him. We've moved the bar. We not only lowered the bar here at Jubilee, because that's what we do. We took it down and moved it back, and it's going to be like a countertop at the very back. So if what you loved about Jubilee was the bar, sorry, it's gone. But, there's still beer in the fridge. It's a good thing. So it'll be a whole new Jubilee by the time we get everybody back in here. So that's something. Give you something to look forward to. Okay, I think that's it. All right. Hear these wise and holy words from this wise and holy man.
Yes. I think this is working. Okay, good. From the Jesus story, Matthew chapter 10, starting at verse 39. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. From the letters of the Apostle Paul, book of Galatians, beginning chapter 5 at verse 13. Do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. If, however, you bite and devour one another, take care that you are not consumed by one another. From A Course in Miracles, Manual for Teachers. Open-mindedness comes with a lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice of God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. And finally, from the Buddhist monk Pema Chodron's book, Taking the Leap, the peace we are looking for is not peace that crumbles as soon as there is difficulty or chaos. Whether we're seeking inner peace or global peace, or a combination of the two, the way to experience it is to build on the foundation of unconditional openness to all that arises. Peace isn't an experience free of challenges, free of rough and smooth. It's an experience that's expansive enough to include all that arises without feeling threatened.
These are wise and holy words. Thanks be to God. All creation speaks volumes of the holy. Something like that. I used to have this written down in front of me. What is it now? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, all that. As we say, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, let's stand and sing. 2, 3, 4. Well, it's high time you realize that I must live my life as it surrounds me. I can give you all the room you need to be yourself, as I'm in the same key. Can live our lives together, yes, and still remain ourselves if we believe. And I believe, oh, oh, darling. Got to keep an open heart, got to keep an open mind. Got to keep working hard, or you get left behind. Got to keep loving, got to keep giving. Got to let nothing get in the way of living. Got to keep open. I've given you my heart again, my soul, I gave you everything I had. Just as there's a special part of you that's yours alone to keep, I'm glad. There is so much we can do together, everything you need if we believe. And I believe, oh, oh, darling. Got to keep an open heart, got to keep an open mind. Got to keep working hard, or you get left behind. Got to keep loving, got to keep giving. Got to let nothing keep giving. Got to let nothing get in the way of living. Got to keep open. Oh yeah. You may be seated wherever you are, or whatever position you're in. Relax. Our sermon song this morning comes from a singer named Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta. Well, we know her better as Lady Gaga. It's a little easier to say. It's her whole name. All right, this song called Born This Way appeared on her 2011 release by the same name. All right, everybody ready? We love this song. It's a fun song. Right. It doesn't matter if you love him or capital H-I-M. Just put your paws up, because you were born this way, baby. 2, 3, 4. My mama told me when I was young, we are all born superstars. She rolled my hair, put my lipstick on, in the glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, because he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. Listen to me when I say I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you'll say I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way, born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be. One of my favorite X-Files episodes featured a main character who looked and acted normal most of the time. He really was quite an unremarkable figure, someone you would just pass on the street, not even notice. Like most of us, though, he had this trait that he hid from polite society. It was a trait that was innate to him. You could say he had been born this way. But unlike most of us, I hope anyway, the trait that he possessed was that he could only survive by eating human flesh. I mean, he didn't quite understand what drove him to do this. He just knew that when he was hungry, he had to feed himself. And one scene, ironically enough, shows him feasting on a fast food worker at the drive-thru. I know, it's gruesome. But in reality, in this bodily place we call reality anyway, don't we all, like the Apostle Paul says to those early believers in Galatia, bite and devour one another? Aren't we all, whenever in the clutches of our ego, ready to chew up and spit out anybody who crosses our path at the wrong time or gets themselves between us and what we believe we desire in this world? Of course, whenever our ego gets hungry and wants to bite and devour someone, there really is no need to get out there and go through the drive-thru, because often we prefer home cooking. Right? During this Via Positiva, we are exploring that great wide open and how we can avoid closing our heart to the world around us and instead live wholeheartedly and open-heartedly by seeking to serve each moment that appears before us. However, the very first person we are prone to close our hearts to at a moment's notice doesn't exist anywhere out here in this world around us. Instead, we prefer the taste of our own fear. We prefer the taste of our own shame, our own feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness or despair. We feast upon our own delicacies of anger and greed and selfishness and anxiety. And often, for dessert, we will devour feelings of superiority and greatness and power and manipulation. Ooh, that's the sweet part right there. Whatever it is within us that leads us to feel separate from others, whether it's feelings of inadequacy or grandeur, you can bet we are bellying up to the table, ready to dig in. And that's not to say that we shouldn't be taking care of ourselves. We should. A lot of the spiritual work that we need to be doing right now falls under this category of self-care. Like the airline cabin crew always tells you, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. We have to have the inner strength and fortitude built up by our own spiritual practices so we can remain centered and peaceful within our true divine self if we are to be of any true service to the world, especially during these sorts of chaotic and unprecedented times. But how often, though, instead of self-care, do we actually engage in self-indulgence? Well, what's the difference, you might wonder? And I'll tell you. Self-care. That's when you take time to refuel your compassion, your love, your altruism towards yourself and this world through spiritual practice, whether it's like meditation or studying, listening to the latest guru that really has grabbed your heart and your ear, whatever works for you. You can't serve anyone if your tanks are empty. Self-indulgence, as the Apostle Paul says in today's reading, is really a form of attack. It's not replenishing yourself, it's attacking yourself. The phrase that he uses in this passage when he says, don't use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, when you go and look at the original Greek, basically what he's saying is, do not attack yourself by finding pleasure in things that tear you down instead of build you up. I'm here to tell you, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry that I'm going to have to tell you this, because I had to tell myself this the other day. Netflix and chill, not self-care. It's not. I'm very sorry to tell you that. Social media binges, nope. Not self-care. Checking out of the world, focusing on your own feelings of anxiety and insecurity, that is not self-care. That is attack. We attack ourselves all the time when we indulge in things that we know are not good for us, things that deplete our own sense of well-being. My personal self-indulgence, here you go, that's going back through all the times that people have hurt me and then tell myself how spiritual I am because I have forgiven all of them. I have forgiven all of you. I love you so much, I'm so spiritual. And that's a lie, because if I'm ruminating on past slights and grievances, obviously I have forgiven no one for anything. It's still fresh, and like my dog, I like to dig it up and roll around in it till I get all good and grievancy smelling. I am biting and devouring myself every time I do it. Self-care. These are the practices we do that create a sense of peace, a sense of calm, a sense of compassion and love within ourselves that's not just for ourselves, but it's for those around us. But it's for ourselves first and foremost. This is not a form of navel-gazing. This is not spiritual bypass. It's doing the hard work. It's engaging in the training that we need to discipline ourselves, to develop the habit to always, in every moment that comes before us, react from a place of love and compassion and curiosity and a deep, abiding desire to be of service, to help others, to become the embodiment of love in this world, which is our function. This is our task. It's why we're here. And does that feel difficult and even impossible on some days? Absolutely. Because none of us are enlightened masters who are going to do this thing called life perfectly every single day. But learning to open your heart to yourself first means finding ways to break your habitual patterns of how you've reacted to all of your shortcomings in the past. And you do it one step at a time, one moment at a time, because those patterns are something that you have developed over a long period of time. 55 years for me, thank you. Yes, and they're going to take time to unlearn. But here's the good news. You were not born to bite and devour yourself, or anyone else for that matter. You are pure love. You are pure joy. You are pure compassion because, baby, you were born that way. Breathe deeply. 2, 3, 4. Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Some wicked rejoice your truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. A different lover is not a sin, deleting capital H-I-M. Hey, 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 I love my life, I love this record, and the immortal love for the end. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be. What we're seeking to develop as we drop our old habits of biting and devouring ourselves is what the Buddhists call Mayatri. Say that with me. Mayatri. Mayatri. That's a Sanskrit word, and it means loving kindness for all beings. And that's a pretty lofty goal. And many of us say we want to achieve Mayatri and feel that sense of loving kindness for all beings. But here's the kicker, according to Buddhist monk Pema Chodron. That word, she says, also means that the first person we must direct that loving kindness to is ourselves. Because there can be no Mayatri for us if we first do not build a sense of trust in ourselves. We can't put it out there if we don't have it first. We must trust, Chodron says, that we have what it takes to know ourselves thoroughly and completely without feeling hopeless, without turning against ourselves because of what we see. Ooh, how hard is that? Right? I mean, most of us have spent our entire lives biting and devouring ourselves. Now we have to develop a sense of trust in ourselves. Woo, this spiritual stuff, that's some hard work. And it's true. Because what we're seeking to build within ourselves, as Chodron says in today's reading, is a peace that is not going to crumble or fall apart when either the world within or without shatters around us. She writes, whether we're seeking inner peace or global peace, or a combination of the two, the way to experience it is to build on the foundation of unconditional openness to all that arises. Unconditional openness to all, A-L-L, that arises. That includes everything that arises within ourselves. And honestly, even though it may not feel like it, it's good news. Because you know what? We have this training ground for unconditional openness right here. All within us, within every single one of us. We walk around with the best spiritual gym in the world right here. No monthly fees. It is absolutely free. Building that foundation is just a matter. How many of us really actually go to the gym? Right. We got to get familiar with all the spiritual muscle building machines we have available right here within ourselves. And children, but don't worry, your trainer will be here shortly. Anything happens out here, that's your trainer showing up to help you build those spiritual muscles inside. So Chodron gives us an exercise we can do when we start out on our spiritual fitness journey, whether it's voluntary or not. She calls it compassionate abiding. And it's a way, she says, to bring warmth to unwanted feelings and embrace our experiences rather than rejecting them. So whenever we are feeling hooked, you remember we talked about that last week, about getting hooked, shinpa, we get that feeling of being hooked by an emotion or a situation. She instructs us to breathe in and allow that feeling completely. Just feel it, whatever it is, open up to it, don't push it away. And then as we are experiencing that discomfort, that prickly feeling of emotion like aggression or craving or anger or fear or sadness, we breathe out and we give that feeling space. The out breath, she says, is not an attempt to get rid of our discomfort, but to loosen the tension around it, to become aware of our space of discomfort. This helps us develop Mayatri, that loving kindness, she says. And she writes this: we willingly touch parts of ourselves that we're not proud of, feelings we think we shouldn't be having. Some of those feelings, she says, are failure, rage, racism, addiction, phobias, or anything else the ego seeks us to use to cause us to bite and devour ourselves. And when we can do this, when we can do that compassionate abiding, breathing in and really just letting the feeling be and making space for it on our out-breath, she says we're transmuting hard, reactive, rejecting energy into basic warmth and openness. All we're doing is breathing in that experience, breathing out what's going on, working with our feelings of negativity in any moment. And by practicing compassionate abiding with our emotions, we're learning the difference of what it feels like to be closed and what it feels like to be open. And we continue to do that until our habit becomes being open instead of being closed. And this jubilance is the process that Jesus talks about. He talks about how we must lose our life to find it, which means we have to lose those parts that habitually react in fear, in anger, in greed, arrogance, hatred, any negativity. Those parts of ourselves must die. But here's the good news. None of those parts that need to die are actually innate to us. They're all learned behaviors, and we have the freedom to get rid of them in every single moment of our lives. And that, the Apostle Paul says, is the correct use of our freedom. This is the ultimate form of self-care, to kill off those habitually fearful and arrogant parts of ourselves. These reactions are not truly who we are. Any negative or arrogant reaction, that's not who you are, because, baby, we were all born in the image and likeness of love. Breathe deeply. 2, 3, 4. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you're set. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way, born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be. Spoiler alert for you, any X-Files fans out there, or someone who went, ooh, I need to watch that X-Files. Close your ears for a second, here's a spoiler. In the end of that X-Files episode, there's one person who confronts this normal-looking, flesh-eating monster and is not consumed by him. Mulder and Scully have the man cornered in his apartment, and they brought along this counselor who approaches him. And he lunges at her, baring his sharp, flesh-tearing teeth that he sprouts whenever he's hungry. And instead of screaming in horror at him, her face softens. And she reaches out her hand and strokes his face and says, you poor man. And in that moment, he hesitates. He's been touched by love. He's been touched by compassion, by joy, maybe for the first time in his whole life. And in the end, the man is shot dead by Mulder and Scully. But metaphorically, there's still a lesson here. Hang on. Stay with me. Metaphorically and metaphysically speaking, his death is pretty meaningful as well. I mean, as Jesus has instructed us, this is the part of us that must die. This is the part we have to get rid of if we are going to find the life that we're supposed to be leading, that life of open-hearted and wholehearted living. And I would posit, in the metaphorical and metaphysical way, that the counselor's reaction came because she had done her own work. She had practiced self-care and not self-indulgence. And maybe she had done a bit of her own compassionate abiding to come to terms with her own inner self-devouring monster. She could see that the man before her was being eaten from the inside out. And her compassionate act, her willingness to stay open and serve him in that moment of need, is when she helped him kill off his own self-devouring nature. And this is what we're called to do, Jubilants, to stay open to our own worst traits, to our own self-devouring nature. In our Jesus story, he tells his disciples that it doesn't take a lot to break that habit. Even if we give a cold cup of water to someone in need, we will find our reward. Giving water to somebody outside of ourselves, well, that can feel pretty easy, right? Somebody's thirsty, here you go. I'll give you a cold cup of water, feel better. But let me ask you this. When's the last time you gave yourself a cold cup of water? When's the last time you allowed yourself to feel fully refreshed and nourished and worthy? If you, like me, still struggle to be open to all the terrible things that you believe about yourself, our reading from A Course in Miracles today tells us we need not just to open our hearts, but we need to open our mind as well. Open-mindedness, that is the moment when judgment stops and we permit the voice of God, that divine counselor who looks at us and says, oh, you poor human. And we are reminded that we have been created in love and that we are very, very good. We project guilt onto ourselves and send ourselves to hell all the time, the Course says. practicing ways to develop my tree, that expansive, loving kindness, and break our habit of closing our heart and mind, will allow us to see Christ's image within ourselves, and then, by extension, we begin to see it in others. The Course tells us only the open-minded can be at peace. And Chodron concurs. She says, peace isn't an experience free of challenges, free of rough and smooth. It's an experience that's expansive enough to include all that arises without feeling threatened. That expansiveness, where all that arises without feeling threatened, that expansiveness, that's what we are made of, jubilants. Every single one of us, you are that great expanse of love and compassion and joy and peace. And when you can begin to feel that on a regular basis, well, then you are on the right track, baby, because you were born this way.
Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Whether you're broke or evergreen, then you're Lebanese, you're Orient. Whether life's disabilities left you outcast, bullied, or teased, rejoice and love yourself today, cause baby, you were born this way. No matter gay, straight, or bi, lesbian, transgender life, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to survive. No matter black, white, or beige, color, Orient, made, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born to be brave. I'm beautiful in my way, cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you're safe. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way, born this way. Ooh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born, I'm on the right track. I was born this way, I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I was born this way, hey, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way, hey.
Oh, yeah. All right, I invite you during this prayer time, if you have your own bowl, I encourage you to ring it and sing it. But during this time of contemplation, I have had my say. Now, let us enjoy the silence and hear Spirit speak. time. Would light seek illumination, wish upon a star to shine. We are what we are, divine and liberated. We are what we are, we're spirit incarnated. We are what we are, and one with all creation. We are what we are our own salvation. Sri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Sri Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Does the ocean search for beauty? A songbird for a pretty tune. Stroke of genius inspiration. A rose to find a sweet perfume. We are what we are, divine and liberated. We are what we are, we're spirit incarnated. We are what we are, at one with all creation. We are what we are our own salvation. Would a selfless act of mercy wish to earn its own reward? Would grace offer sanctuary to only those who could afford? We are what we are, divine and liberated. We are what we are, we're spirit incarnated. We are what we are, and one with all creation. We are what we are our own salvation. Oh yeah. That is a Jubilee song right there. If you want to know what Jubilee is, what Jubilee believes, there you go, that song. We are what we are, divine and liberated. And we appreciate everyone who has been helping us with Jubilee as we are in this time of social and physical distancing. We are here in our building, and we are working on our building and trying to get it prepared for when we can come and physically meet with one another again. And we need your continuing support to do that. And we know that giving is receiving, that as you give to us, it goes out into the community. It helps us maintain this building. It helps us maintain a presence in the community. And we do appreciate any support that you can give us. You can go to our website at jubileecircle.com. There are a couple of ways that you can donate there. You're always welcome to send a check if you if you are the good old-fashioned check, write, and type, and we still do have a few of those out there. Our post office box is on our website at jubileecircle.com. It's very easy. It's post office box 4611, 4611, Columbia 29240. So if you want to send us a check, that is also a very good way to get in touch with us with your money. So thank you so much for everyone who has contributed. We have seen some tremendous support, and we feel like we are going to make it through this, hopefully. We don't know how long this is going to go on, but we are grateful to everyone who is supporting us. And our affirmation is, God's love has always met and will always meet my needs. I give freely and receive joyfully, knowing that giving and receiving are the same, and indeed they are. So thank you for everyone who understands that and is supporting us through their tithes and their offerings. So we are going to adjourn here in just a second to go to our Zoom meeting. The link for the Zoom meeting is on your bulletin if you have downloaded that. It is also at jubileecircle.com, and it is also on our Facebook page. And I would like to, again, thank the band, because these folks have really hung in here since March throughout this whole thing, and I'm so very grateful that they are all here with me. We have Janice Mewborn over here on banjo and vocals, Keith Edwards, our resident peace-loving vegan. I'm just going to call you that. Bass player. I thought that was peace. Or is it the other way? Okay. I'm learning things today. And what's the... There's like vegan gang signs he's throwing down here. Beth Dehart on the drums, Tricia Fopp on guitar and vocals, and Michael Reisman, who has been off camera most of the day today on keyboards. We can't seem to get the whole stage, or else it would be all the way back in the back, and we'd be about that big. Then we could get the whole stage. But thank you all for joining us. I'm Candace Shalou, the spiritual director here at Jubilee Circle, and thank you all for joining us this morning now, and we will have a little discussion and some fellowshipping and prayer requests and oh yes, so join us over there on Zoom. Thank you very much. I'll do it. All right, try again. We are here for all of us. Some of us for all of us. We are here for all of us. And it's 12 o'clock somewhere. Let the people say, oh yeah. Go in peace, everyone.